everyone, and welcome to our next installment of our alumni virtual engagement series, Alumni Success Story. We are excited to be with you all today. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live for those of you who are tuning in. And we have a wonderful alum to hear his story and learn more about what he's doing in his career, how Manor helped pave the way to get there, and more. So thank you all for joining us. We are with Rimmon Greenidge and Tom Sims. I'm going to introduce Rimmon for a minute here, and then we'll introduce my colleague, Tom Sims. So Rimmon, he graduated from Manor in 2003 with his associate's degree in allied health and sciences. From there, he moved on to Thomas Jefferson University to receive not one degree, but two, his bachelor's and master's in medical imaging and radiation sciences. Currently, Rimmon is still at Thomas Jefferson, and he's an assistant professor. He has been a part of Thomas Jefferson's faculty for over 10 years in the Department of Medical Imaging and Radiation Sciences. Clinically speaking, Rimmon also works as a per diem MRI technologist, so he's staying in the field and staying current. And he serves Manor College and gives back his time very generously as a member of our Student Affairs Board Committee. So thank you for doing all of that, Rimmon, and we're really excited to welcome you today. Tom, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Tom Sims, and I'm an adjunct professor in the English department here at Manor, as well as the institutional advancement officer. So glad to be here and glad to meet with Rimmon.
Yes, thank you, Tom. And I'm Kelly Pfeiffer. I am our Vice President of Marketing, Communications, and Advancement here at Manor. So let's get right into our questions and hearing more about this successful alumni. For those of you who are tuning in, if you have questions and want things specifically answered, please feel free to put it in our Facebook comments, and we will make sure that we get those questions addressed. So hi, Rimmon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining us. So start us a little bit by telling us your Manor story. How did you hear about Manor? Why did you choose it? And how did you know what degree program to study when you were a student?
So interesting enough, I mean, I personally didn't choose Manor myself. I grew up, I was an international student. So I'm originally from Barbados. And so I had my sister actually was up here going to school not too far from Manor. And she actually found Manor based on, my needs coming from Barbados to America for school, as far as the one thing looking for kind of that smaller type of feel of a college. And so I think once she found it and I came up here that summer in 2001 to see Manor, like I fell in love with it just as well. And so I think the thing of being able to have that smaller kind of family feel was very important for me. I think as I kind of transitioned from an international student coming to America, because I think I started Manor when I was 17 years old. So I was very young, in my start of college. And I think that was an important factor, because I think sometimes you have to know yourself as well. And I think my parents and my family knew me in a way that maybe going to a 4-year large institution might not have been a good start at the very beginning for my career path, because sometimes you kind of get a little overwhelmed in those environments. And so sometimes even when I would meet with students in high school or even meet with individual family members in different areas of like Jefferson and at workshops or open houses, I do refer to Manor as an option for people a lot of times, because I think sometimes having that slower pace in some aspects is very helpful to build confidence, to build a little bit of experience in taking those chemistry classes or those English and philosophy classes in the less threatening environment of a big 200 classroom type of setting, So I think the size at the time in 2001 of Manor, I mean, Manor's grown since I've, as I see it more now, but I think that's really what gravitated me liking Manor a lot. And also why it was a big important part of my family kind of finding that kind of fit for me and my personality. So that was huge. So I personally didn't choose it, but it worked out very, very well for me. So
that sounds like.
Sorry, Tom. I think that's so true about, sometimes the student doesn't always pick the college themselves. They're so influenced by family,
Right.
just like your story. So I think that really hits home. Was Manor College your first like American experience?
Correct. Yeah. So like I said, 2001, I remember the very first day in September. And, I kind of came up that summer in August, and my first campus experience was in 2001. So I didn't know anything else. I was in high school. It's a little bit different in Barbados. And so it was a big transition. And I think what Manor allowed me to do too was mature and grow up a little bit as well too, from a 17-year-old, even though I was still 17. I think having to have some autonomy for myself was important to kind of get me to where I was and where I started. Because now I realize, as representation of your family, people put the time and effort to send you here to go to school. And you really, you want to make sure you do well by them as well, for yourself, and just making sure that, you continue on a trajectory of, A's, B's, and as be as successful as possible, really.
That makes sense. So you got into a little bit about your experience here, coming here in the summer, first experience in college, some autonomy. Give us a sense of the flavor for what you were involved with, any clubs or sports, or what did you think of your classes, and were there any professors that particularly that inspired or challenged you? Just give us a sense of your time here, first year and during the duration.
Yeah, so my time was, I enjoyed my time Manor 100%. It was the best experience ever. And even to this day, some of the classmates, I still talk to them. We even some of us went to Jefferson together in different programs, but we still stayed pretty close. And I played basketball while I was there at Manor. So I walked on my freshman year, and then I actually captained my sophomore year. And then at that time, we transfer out. But that was the main thing I did at Manor at that particular point in time was basketball. So I was, a student athlete during that time, which was good as far as balancing out what I needed to do. And it was tough in the beginning as well, too, of time management, because I was commuting at the first part in my freshman year. So I stayed with my family in Philadelphia, and I was catching the bus and the train and all that stuff. And then we would have all these practices. And so that was also trying to balance practices, commuting, and then classes. And then in the sophomore year, I stayed on campus. And then that was a whole different experience. So I stayed in the dorms. That was 100% fun when I was there with all the players. And then, we had all different activities in the dorm at night and stuff. So being on campus was a huge change as well, with having more time, with classes and my experiences. As far as my classes, I think all the teachers were awesome. They challenge you in multiple areas throughout, whether it was my, philosophy classes, my ethics courses, biology. I had a great advisor. I give shout out to Miss Zagatowski, for shouting her out as well, for her guidance throughout that process, as well as someone to rely on and lean on whenever there were any questions or concerns. But I think having the faculty know all the students is very important. And I think the size of Manor enables that to happen. And the faculty, have everyone, they know everyone by first name. And I think that's huge in creating a culture of family and making students want to do well for themselves, make sure they want to let because the faculty are invested.
Excellent. You're hitting all the high points in a lot of what goes on here relative to, well, first off, you had the commuter experience and the living on the dorm experience. So that's speaking to, and just speaking to that personalized education is what's important here at Manor as well.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love how you are describing like a very holistic student experience. It's living on campus, it's playing sports, it's classes are tough, but like that's the way it is. And having a great advisor, Jane Zagostowski, who's kind of a legend at Manor, I would say. So that's really cool that you're able to reflect on all of that. I want to know, how did you choose your major? This is a question that a lot of students coming in, particularly as a freshman, and you were 17. A lot of students don't know what to major in, and that's super normal. That's actually the majority of people. How did you know, like, allied health, science, and that kind of direction?
I kind of did well in the sciences, so it was a natural fit for me. in that process. So, like I said, so, when my family and I decided on what to choose, they figured as far as the trajectory of where things are traveling in the future, you're kind of, a safe bet sometimes is healthcare. I think that avenue of picking a allied health science would allow me to branch off even in the 2 years of trying to figure out which part of healthcare do I want to go into, right? So I didn't know that part of where I wanted to transfer yet, but I think a safe bet of, you can never go around with the chemistries, the biologists that fit into a lot of degree programs at other colleges. So it was kind of a good start for me to kind of figure out where I would go in the next. So we kind of didn't want to, we wanted to maximize as much time in those 2 years in choosing the best courses that allow diversity and me to transfer out to somewhere else.
And that's definitely a very wise and strategic way to do it. Just knowing healthcare, can't go wrong there. And look at, we've had this pandemic this past year. Healthcare has been so important this year. We at Manor, we currently have a 2+2 nursing program with another institution where you can start your 2 years for nursing here and then continue on. And it's a great agreement. But we're seeing a lot of students, they do want to go into the health field because it's security and it's a field where you're going to help people. So those two things combined, that service and yet that job security, is really attractive for many. As long as you can handle the science classes.
Yeah, working in healthcare, you're going to see, everyone knows everyone's getting, patients are going to be older very, very soon. And then you need the people, to actually take care of those patients, right? And so, so as we continue to see the demand of patients grow, as baby boomers start to retire and people get older, then the healthcare field is definitely one that's going to continue to excel, I think, in a continued future for sure.
And we definitely got a good sense of you chose allied health and science and how that sort of helped you transition into your next education experience. But give us a full flavor for how Manor prepared you for your next school experience, in not just from an academic standpoint, but overall.
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you hear Thomas Jefferson University, it is a large university, but it depends on the program. And it worked out well. When I transferred to Jefferson back then, my MRI class only had 5 students in there, and I was one of 5. And so it was just almost to me a mirror of what I was doing. Not saying Manor's, some classes have 12, 15, whatever, but I kind of mirrored my experience at Manor to Jefferson the same way. So we have multiple programs at Jefferson in the imaging sciences, but each program has a certain capacity of students. So MRI at the time, was 5, and then it maybe go 10 or 12, and then there's ultrasound has maybe 30. So I actually transitioned similarly in my environment with having a very small cohort in my year or my time at Jefferson. I think in X-ray, maybe we had like 15 students, which is almost a typical Manor class size sometimes. And then MRI was much smaller. So I kind of continued on, and it worked out well because I kind of continued with that small family type of environment, even at Jefferson, even though it's a large place, compared to, again, if I might have transferred to another larger 4-year school where I'm in a class of 1 of 200 or something, And so I think I can't say it was much different in that regard, but I think I continued on understanding that kind of family unit and, preparing myself to continue to do well in my courses. You're held accountable, 1 of 5, you got to make sure you keep doing well in those courses as well too, So I think that was also something that was helpful because, you want to maintain those grades as well. So it did prepare me because I think also I learned a lot of balancing and management of my time being on the basketball team and, taking part in different activities on campus and so even though I might not have seen it then, I definitely know those things prepared me just as well of, understanding my abilities and what I can and can't do, at one given time. You only have so much time in a day. And so I think that management of my time at Manor translated over to what Jefferson was. And I think that was huge.
That's great. Often we don't think about about when you're transferring to a larger school, you might be transferring to a particular part of that school that doesn't have the size. There's some classes where you can sort of like lay in the back and just sort of not being a little bit in the background. Not so when there's only 5 students in the class. So
no.
Excellent. and time management, a key element of any post-secondary experience. So that's great.
Right. And I actually came and sat into one of the courses not too long ago and did a presentation for one of the faculty in one of the business courses, and kind of talked to the students a little bit as well, probably maybe like about a month ago. And I think that's always what I see for a lot of students when they come to large institutions. They don't realize at that point sometimes you don't pick your classes. Like at Manor, we can choose a class and I'm going to do 1-2 classes on Friday and I'm done, or something like that, but a lot of these other universities are, you're in there 40 hours a week, whether you might be in an internship setting, a clinical setting, you might be then going back and having your classes for a set kind of core curriculum set of classes. So there's no options, right? So, you have to be able to, continue to manage time wisely, because a lot of those experiences are kind of full-time experiences, like a job, right? So so that is a lot of a different transition, I think, because at Manor was the same thing. I kind of had those. I chose my bio class. I chose this class. I want to do the one at 10 o'clock. I want to do the one, and then you get to Jefferson. It's like you're in class from 9 to 4, and then you're in the hospital from 8 to 4:30 the other days, right? And so that was a huge transition where now your time is kind of stretched a lot thinner, and you have to study and maybe even spend time with family a little, so that's really a key aspect to any student, I think, transferring from any institution or just in college in general, is that time management is going to be a huge part of success for sure.
It is. And did you by any chance work when you were a student at Manor as well?
No, I did not work. I couldn't work as an international student at the time.
Gotcha.
So I didn't do any additional like work study or anything. I could not, like outside of, I could have worked, I'd be a work study, I guess, but I didn't take on that responsibility. Again, just as like a first experience playing basketball, I think my plate was pretty full. And I think sometimes people have to know when their plate is a little full sometimes, trying to not get themselves too overwhelmed. But I personally I didn't work when I was a student at Manor.
I think though, that's still what you're talking about, time management. It's huge. And it's hard. It's hard to know how to manage your time from going from, high school where everything was pretty much structured for you to now it's on you to figure out when you eat lunch and when you study and what works best for you. Right. And also, making friends and having relationships and having some fun in the mix of all of that. So talk a little bit about how you got like your first job out of college and what was that? And what did that look like? And how did you know that was the right fit for you? Because we have, we just graduated about 125 students this past May, part of our class of 2021. And, they are on the job hunt right now. And so any advice would be excellent to hear.
Yeah, I mean, when I first worked, I ended up working at Paoli Imaging Center, where I kind of actually currently am as a per diem technologist. So I did get a little help in being able to job hunt and find that position out of school. But once I kind of got there, it just felt really good, being there with the staff, the manager, and so that experience was really good in just that personal interaction. And I think what is very tough a lot of times for people is, I always say choosing a career is very hard. I think it really is tough, kind of thinking what you want to do. There are many people who choose something and then they do something else totally different just as well, so. But what I've come to realize is that I really like what I do, right? And so I think that experience of liking what you do makes it very, very easy, or makes it easier, not easy, but it makes it a little bit easier, because if you like what you do, it's easy to get up in the morning, and like I said, I go and I enjoy myself, to enjoy teaching. I get to still scanning MRI, and so going to that first job was awesome for me, and so and like I said, I'm still there now in a different capacity, but it's because of that first year experience that was like huge. And again, it came back being a smaller company at that time, as far as a few technologists who I still work with. And again, it continued to be a family. So I think my whole theme has kind of got very lucky in this, everything was like family for me, like, you know what I mean? And I think that kind of is where you kind of feel some gravitational kind of pull to those particular types of environments, because you're not overwhelmed and people are willing to teach you, and you have to be open to learn as well. As a graduate, again, you've learned some things, but you don't know everything, right? And so I think having some ability to be a little bit humble in knowing, that you have a lot to learn and grow is going to be very, very important. And I think one of the things people have to realize too is that a lot of people have talent, but I think you also have to really hone your skills and your craft, and you have to put that extra time and effort in. Because I think that goes a long way in people realizing like you mean business, like you're serious about what you want to do and you're not just taking it for granted. And so I think working as hard as you can, being a team player, being as productive as you can in that 8 hours you go to work, and being nice to people and having some empathy goes a very long way, not just in healthcare, but in every walk of your life and interactions with people. You know, that's the thing. That's what I try to do. And so I tend to really make good relationships with people. I think they last a very long time as well.
I think a lot of those pillars that you just talked about, being kind, being a genuine person, working hard, that fits really well with Manor's mission and what we strive to be as an institution, but then also to instill those values into our students of, service, caring, very, simple things, but yet still important even today. And those are foundational attributes that we have from our sisters who founded the college. So it's really cool to see that those same values are being instilled in our students, which then turn into alumni and obviously productive.
Sure. And I tell
so
people
just
all the
great
time too. Yeah, and I even say sometimes like, you can be the most technically sound person in the world in anything you do, but what people remember is how you treated them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that really goes a very long way in how you do what you do and how people see you. So I think caring for people is huge, and I think that's what a lot of us need a little bit more of in interactions on a daily basis and things, because people are going to remember that more than how well you took a photo or how well you did this or that. It's like they remember the person, right? And so if you can kind of leave that lasting impression on people, I think that's huge.
Agree more. Yeah. Excellent sound advice for any of our current graduates and any of our students. So that's awesome. Let's look at your past year and a half as a professor. Reflect on that a little bit, and what courses do you teach, and how has it been?
So I teach courses in kind of like the clinical aspect of MRI. So I teach clinical MRI procedures, how to scan certain body parts and studies. I teach the MRI the cross-sectional anatomy courses as well, which is a huge part of imaging. And then I teach MRI pathology courses, kind of seeing the different diseases, how they are seen on the MRI picture. And then I also do a lot of the clinical coordinating, where I place students, throughout the tri-state area at different clinical sites, and I visit and kind of evaluate and see how they're doing. So that was a huge, part of my job at Jefferson currently. And then, a lot of our information courses were face-to-face. And so that was really my I guess I've been there now for 15, 16 years. And this is the very first time I've had to teach online courses for a lot of those students. And kind of, again, so I missed a lot of that in-person interactions. Again, I'm a person that likes to feed off the room and, make people feel good. And so it works on Zoom a little bit, but you still lose some of that aspect to some degree. But I mean, we've continued on, with the challenges and prepared ourselves. And now we've kind of got to a place now where, it's second nature almost to teach online now. I mean, we're all doing these kind of things now. And I think what we've realized, we could have done a lot of these things a long time ago to get people together. Like I said, as far as, even like when I come and help with Manor, we do it on Zoom, but I was coming to campus and I was taking my time to come out there and everything. But we find we can get a lot of people together a lot easier now within this particular environment. And I think it's going to end up being like this for a very long time now. But it was a transition phase for sure. I mean, as far as working in the hospital, I kind of stopped for a little bit as the pandemic started, kind of as we figured all this stuff out. And then we went to a lot of online learning for our students, and then trying to figure out a lot of, their clinical in the hospitals, because that slowed down as well too. So we all kind of felt that in all walks of, professions, that last year. But I think we've kind of hopefully come out now on the other side, moving forward. But it was different, for us from going that 16 years in person to then all of a sudden being online in a snap. But I think we've all kind of done very well for ourselves, for sure.
Agreed, for sure. It's been a challenging year and a half, but certainly not insurmountable challenges.
Yeah. people kind of, because sometimes you don't realize how strong you are until you have some things like that. I think that's a huge part of anything in life too, is that, you kind of might get knocked down here or there, and everyone's had a few bumps, but it's how you come back. And that's the thing. You can't stay down. You got to get back up, find something different. If that's the case, make yourself better, get stronger, get smarter, get wiser, whatever it is, you got to get back up. And I think that's a true test of resilience of anyone can have, right? You got to get back up.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So let's kind of ask one more question here for you, Rimmon. And so what advice do you have for our current students? The students who are currently studying at Manor, we now have 4-year bachelor degree programs. So we have students that are studying to have an associate degree, to have a bachelor's degree. What advice would you give them as they're currently, like, they're in their college experience at Manor, and trying to motivate them to keep journeying on, and even amongst challenges and the last year that we've had?
I would say, like, I think sometimes people, you think you might know what your path is sometimes. And so, to tell you that I was going to be teaching for 16 years at Manor, at Jefferson, I was like, I don't think that was a part that I thought I would be doing, right? But I think if you continue to position yourself in areas that would be successful, I think you're in a good position. So I think, yes, you have the associates, but again, strive for the bachelor's, right? Because you never know where you're going to be, right? And opportunities pop up, and you want to be in a position to take those opportunities as best as you can. And I also tell students, when I was talking to them recently, is like, challenge yourself sometimes, right? It's like, so if you find, like, you have to know personally a little bit and self-reflect and kind of know where some of those areas of growth can be, because those are the areas that you might not realize are where your strengths actually are. Right. And so if you find, like, I'm very nervous to talk in front of people, you should take a public speaking course, right? You need to do things to kind of get yourself out of that comfort zone, because what if you end up working a job now in marketing and that wasn't your role, but now you have to speak in front of people, right? So you can just think that you're going to be somewhere in 4 years, but that's not always guaranteed. So I think if you can do things now and kind of really in a non-threatening environment of learning it at a college like Manor, for sure, take those additional little steps and to try to make yourself better in some of those areas. So I think self-reflection is very huge, for anybody, kind of knowing what can I work on, and then not shy away. It's like, I'm not going to take that course. I don't like speaking in front of people. I'm not going to take it. It's like, no, you should, right? Because you never know where you're going to be. So continue to push and actually challenge yourself. And I think that's always very tough for people. I think, if you are the outside looking in as a family member or a faculty member, you see a lot more in a student sometimes than they see in themselves. And I think that's, a lot of us do that to ourselves. It's like, oh, I don't think I can do it. Like, no, I can see that you can, right? So self-reflect, see where you might have challenges, potentially work on those, let them become a strength, which will provide you to be more of a well-rounded individual. So when it comes to a transition in marketing, in research, in, if you go and do your dentistry, working with people, networking, whatever else, you built those skills up now because you worked on a little bit of yourself as well in that aspect too. So I think that is huge. I think just challenge yourself a little bit, out of that comfort zone in certain areas where and people do know where those challenges might be sometimes, and then they shy away from them. When I say don't shy away, you have to work on them.
You're saying lean in other words, and that makes perfect sense. And thank you for the plug for my public speaking class here at Manor. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I didn't even know that.
There you go. See, you didn't even know.
Yeah.
When I listen to you talk, I think of the words of Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think you really have got a great message for our students, or anybody considering Manor. And so thank you for that time.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And like I said, and I've come a very long way myself too. Like I said, from a 17-year-old to be on here and live with you guys and do all this kind of stuff and have advice for people, it takes time to get to that particular point. But I've, seen it with students, I've seen it in myself, and I can trust me. Like I said, Manor helped me get to where I am, and Jefferson as well too. But I can tell you a lot of that's things you don't always realize where you're going to be and what you'll need as tools to help be successful. But I think, you got to learn every day. You have to learn, like I said, treating people, you don't have to learn that. You just have to do that. Right. But I think honing your skills and challenging yourself is a huge part of growth as far as being a person and being successful. Right. So I try to do that every single day, and hopefully it comes across that way with my students, with my patients, with people I interact with. And so that's all I can ask for, so.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rimmon. It's been great talking to you. It's been great hearing your story. You certainly have gotten, I think, us fired up and excited about what Manor can do for our students. And it's just been so great. We wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully we can see you soon, and maybe some more alumni events that we're hoping to plan. Thank you to anyone who was able to tune in, and I hope you enjoyed our next installment of our virtual engagement alumni series. We're going to be having another one coming out in June, so please keep a close eye on our alerts for that. And stay Manor strong, everyone. Take care.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye-bye.